Welcome to Smash or Pass Gran Turismo Edition, the mini-series where we review high-end cars in Gran Turismo 7 to arrive at the ultimate recommendation of Smash or Pass. I'm your host, GT Jesse, and I'm a data scientist by day and sim racing enthusiast by night. I developed a scoring algorithm to provide you, sim racers, an unbiased opinion on whether you should smash this car and spend your hard-earned credits, or pass on this one and save them for next time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please do hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments below what car you want to see reviewed in the next installment of Smash or Pass. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to episode 3 of Smash or Pass. In today's episode, we are reviewing a legendary car in motorsport history. This car has been nicknamed Godzilla since it hit the track in 1989 because it has dominated almost everything that it has come in contact with. It is an absolute beast. It is a titan on the track, and I'm excited to review it with you today. The specific model that we are reviewing today is the 1999 Nissan GT-R GT500 that can be purchased from the legendary car dealership in Gran Turismo 7. And this car, folks, it won the 1999 Drivers' Championship in the Super GT GT500 Racing Series. It is eligible to be used as a Group 3 car in Gran Turismo 7, so it has a lot of usability in online racing, and so that makes me very excited to review it with you today. Now this car, folks, if you don't know about GT500 racing or Super GT racing and how that differs from Group 3 or GT3 racing, it's really simple, and I do want to just cover that real quick. So GT500 is part of the Super GT series. The Super GT series is a Japan-specific motorsport series. So there's certain parameters and certain requirements for cars to enter the Super GT series, and cars either compete in the Super GT GT300 or the Super GT GT500 classes. Historically, GT300 classes were limited to 300 horsepower, GT500 classes were limited to 500 horsepower. So that's where the numbers came from. That has evolved over time, and now GT500 cars can go up to, I think it's around 600 or 650 horsepower. GT3 cars, or Group 3 cars, as you're more familiar with in Gran Turismo 7, are simply cars that were created under the specifications of the FIA to compete in the GT3 class. So two different racing series, but cars that have very similar characteristics in their power to weight ratios, how they're built, and the requirements for engineering one of these racing machines. So I hope that background helps you understand a little bit about the differences between GT3 cars and GT500 cars. They're very similar. GT3 cars, they are required to have a weight between 2645 and 2866 pounds and horsepower between 5 and 600. This car is just about 2600 pounds and it has 500 horsepower. So broad strokes, it meets the requirements to be classified as a GT3 car. It was just never used in GT3 races. It was used in GT500 races. So for me personally, I'm excited that this is a GT3 car. I'm excited that we get to use it online. It is a purpose-built racing machine, and it would be a shame for this race car to not be able to be used in Gran Turismo Sport Mode or Gran Turismo Online races, just simply because it isn't a GT3 car. So either way, I hope that background was helpful and insightful, and helps you understand a little bit about car classifications and why you would see a GT500 designation, but the car being classed as a Group 3 car in Gran Turismo 7 in online racing. Now, I promise you, we're going to jump into the review, but real quick, before we do, just a quick shameless plug. I did create this livery. If you want to download and use this livery on your car, you can find it in Showcase if you just search for the tag GT Jesse, all one word, one tag within Showcase for this car. If you want to know how I created the livery, I made a video for that. You can find it on my YouTube page, and I've made several other videos where I teach you several different livery editor techniques in the Gran Turismo ecosystem. Okay, jumping into the review and starting off with the curb appeal score, which is basically my opinion of the car's interior and exterior styling. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm a JDM fan, and I can't help but look at this car and just think that it just drips JDM everything. It's an R34 Skyline, purpose-built for Super GT racing in the GT500 class. It doesn't get any more JDM than that, and on top of that, I can't help but look at this car, or any R34 for that matter, without thinking of Paul Walker in Too Fast, Too Furious. May his beautiful soul rest in peace. And it is because of those reasons that this car earns a solid 9 out of 10 for exterior styling. Moving to the interior of the car, we can see that we've got carbon fiber dashboard, carbon fiber center console, we've got a sequential shifter, all the different racing pieces, Sparco steering wheel, okay, playing at my JDM heartstrings, we've got Recaro seats, 5-point harness with the Nismo shoulder straps. Guys, honestly, this car, solid 9 out of 10 for interior styling as well. Okay, let's talk about value real quick. So this car is 2.5 million credits. And that's not too bad given the price of some of the legendary cars that are out there. You can get 2.5 million credits within a couple of hours with some of the grinding options that exist. It's also a Group 3 car, and so you're going to be able to use it pretty much as you want because Polyphony has Group 3 cars on rotation almost every week in sport mode. So because of that, the combined value score for this car, solid 9 out of 10. Taking a quick peek at the spec sheet before we start performance testing, we can see this car has 498 horsepower and is 2,646 pounds. So that gives it a power to weight ratio of about 0.2 or about 1 to 5. So for every 1 horsepower, there's about 5 pounds of curb weight. Looking at the acceleration performance, quarter mile time is quoted at 11.61, so we'll try to beat that in our testing here in a minute. Looking at the stability scores, so we've got negative 0.43 for low speed and negative 1 for high speed. I don't agree with those, and that's questionable to me honestly, because they're basically saying that this car is not stable, and you'll see in my review, but I don't agree with that at all. This car is actually very stable. So either way, let's go on ahead and head over to High Speed Ring for some performance testing. Okay, so first things first, we're going to start with a quarter mile test, and then we're going to lead directly in to a top speed test, and then we're going to repeat the quarter mile a couple of times with and without traction control to see if we're able to replicate or beat our original score. And so we're looking at the 100 meter marker there, 200 meter, we're looking for 400, so that's halfway, 300, and then here's 400. Just under 11 seconds, so we definitely beat the quoted time. I think it was 11.6, and we were just under 11. So let's see what we can get for a top speed here. We're in 6th gear, so this car has 6 gears total, and we are, looks like basically topping out around 170, 171, 72. Basically, we're seeing how fast we can go before the track starts to go up in elevation. So we're at 175, can we get 176? Okay. And then I think we finished this one at 177. Yeah, so 177 top speed and quarter mile time just under 11 seconds. Rewatching the replay here for the quarter mile, and we're doing this just so we can get the exact time as we cross the 400 meter marker. And we'll see that as we go across the line, our exact trap time for the quarter mile was 10.883. Okay, now we're going to go on ahead and rerun this and just see if we're able to improve on our time if we don't use traction control. And just thought process here is the GT-R is all-wheel drive, so maybe we'll have better luck with this. But we'll see as we go across the 400 meter marker that we don't improve upon our time. Okay, we're going to try this one more time, and this time we're going to use traction control, but we're going to short shift. And the reason why is because we looked at the power curve for this car, and it just looked like we might be able to get a little bit more speed out of it if we do short shift. Looks like the power falls off in the higher RPMs, and you'll see that as we cross the line, we're at 10.8 flat, and that is better than our previous best of 10.883. Okay, moving into the handling and stability portion of the review, and for this we've gone to Fuji, and we've just simulated a race with the AI on the highest level so that we can get, a somewhat of a barometer on how this car performs with other cars in its class. And you can see me go for the dive bomb into turn 1 at Fuji, so classic maneuver there to take over some positions at the beginning of the race. But it's against the AI, right? So no harm, no foul. But it's interesting. So this car is, it's very stable. And I say that that's interesting because if you look at the stability rating in the spec sheet, this car is rated as being understable. It's rated with a -1 in high speed stability. And that is the worst stability rating that you can have. It goes from 0 to -1, -1 being the worst. So to see this car at a -1, it had my eyebrows raised. Like, it didn't really make sense, because if you think back to the video that I did on the Ferrari P4 or the Ferrari FXXK, both of those cars were just about -1 as well, and they were almost impossible to drive. So the P4, without tuning, it's almost impossible to drive around corners at high speeds without breaking through at the back end. The FFXK, on the other hand, is a little bit more drivable, but it's still pretty unstable, but it's more tolerable than the P4. But to give this car a -1 as well, it just it had me completely shook. I don't know where they came up with that number. And so because of that, I've updated my algorithm to basically make the low speed stability rating and high speed stability rating basically worth next to nothing in terms of overall contribution to the handling and stability score. And so because of that, we're basically just taking it on a drive here, and I'm giving you my impressions of what it's like to drive it. And so first off, when you're driving this car, it definitely is understeery. So you want to do all of your braking before you start turning for the most part. It's not going to be a car that's very good at trail braking. You want to downshift to help you turn into different corners. But yeah, it really it will oversteer, but you really have to be negligent with it. It's much more prone to understeering. So if I were to compare this car, from a stability perspective purely, it's extremely stable, but it's not very nimble and it doesn't handle great. It's Godzilla, right? It's a Titan driving down the track. It's a beast. It's powerful. It has okay maneuverability. Godzilla he gets around, but it's no Porsche, that's for sure. You're not taking a 911 RSR around the track here. So it took me a few attempts to basically get the car to a point where I could drive it with some confidence around these corners. But once I did, and once I basically got a feel for, as I bottle it there, once I got a feel for the braking and understanding that with this car, you really need to brake before you start turning. And that's honestly true with a lot of cars, but some cars are going to trail brake and maneuver much better under trail braking conditions. This car really just doesn't. So beside that, the car handles fairly well. You just really don't want to be braking heavily while trying to turn this car or maneuver this car. But otherwise, the car gets a solid handling and stability score. So drivability, I give it an 8.5 just because it does understeer a bit, but it doesn't really oversteer at all. So if I think about cars that are the easiest to drive, that handle extremely well, I mentioned the Porsche 911 RSR. That obviously comes to mind as being a car that, it's very low weight. It also has relatively low power, but because it has low weight, it can keep up with, a lot of the faster cars. Also because it handles extremely well. The back end, it rotates around really nicely, going around corners. And you don't have to try really with specific tactics or techniques to get the car to rotate. Whereas this car, you have to be very deliberate with your braking, when you brake, when you turn, even using the throttle to power over a little bit in some instances to help get the back end to rotate a little bit going around some corners. So once you get a feel for the handling for this car, it handles quite nicely. It's very predictable in how it handles, and I like that. It's kind of reminiscent of, honestly, some of the cars in Gran Turismo Sport, the majority of cars in Gran Turismo Sport, I should say. And so because of that, this car, for the handling and stability score, it gets a solid 8 out of 10. Overall performance score comes in just shy of a 7, and that's really a combination of a moderately decent speed score, a decent power score, and a pretty good handling and stability score. So there you have it, folks. We've seen the data, we have done the testing. What's your recommendation? Would you smash or would you pass the 1999 Nissan GT500 GT-R? I personally would smash this car. I would smash it fast and often, and I would do it quickly because you never know when it's going to get pulled from the legendary car dealership. It's available now, but it might not be available tomorrow. For 2.5 million credits, I would say this car is definitely worth it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more great Gran Turismo 7 content in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.